Book of Mormon, fact or fiction? Place of the Book of Mormon. The Book of Mormon claims to be a historical record of pre-Columbian people in the Americas. Date range of the Book of Mormon: 600 BC to about 420 AD for the Nephites and Lamanites, who comprise most of the book. The Chariots lived before 600 BC, starting out at about 2600 BC at the very earliest, hence the entire possible date range is 2600 BC to 420 AD. Book of Mormon Anachronisms. Anachronism is something out of place for a given date range. The Horse and Chariot. The horse is mentioned 13 times in the Book of Mormon. Chariot is mentioned 7 times in association with the horse. Book of Mormon passages on the horse and chariot. Now when Lamoni had heard this, he caused that his servants should make ready his horses and his chariots. Their land is also full of horses, neither is there any end of their chariots. Behold, he is feeding thy horses. Now the king had commanded his servants, previous to the time of the watering of the flocks, that they should prepare his horses and chariots, and conduct him forth. Now when King Lamoni heard that Ammon was preparing his horses and his chariots, he was more astonished. And it came to pass that when Ammon had made ready the horses and the chariots for the king and his servants, the proclamation of Laconius had gone forth throughout all the face of the land, and they had taken their horses and their chariots, and did march forth by the thousands. When did the horse come to the Americas? Horses were brought to the American continent by Hernan Cortez, the Spanish conqueror, in 1519, over 1,000 years after Book of Mormon times. When did the horse come to the Americas? It is widely accepted that horses were extinct in the Western Hemisphere over 10,000 years ago and did not reappear until the Spaniards brought them from Europe. This is thousands of years before Book of Mormon times. And in this picture we see Cortez bringing his horses, meeting Montezuma. When did the horse come to the Americas? The only evidence of early horses on the American continent dates to prehistoric times, between 12,500 and 10,000 BC, once again, thousands of years before Book of Mormon times. Here we can see some prehistoric horses, their skeletons. Mormon Apologist explanation. What the writers of the Book of Mormon really meant by horse was tapir. This is a view shared by several BYU professors. Great warriors. The Nephites and Lamanites were great warriors. Can you imagine them charging into battle on their trusty tapir? Here is a mighty warrior on a tapir. Can you imagine a tapir pulling a chariot? Did pre-Columbian peoples use chariots? Clark Weisler, the curator of ethnography at the American Museum of Natural History in New York City, noted, "We see that the prevailing mode of land transport in the New World was by human carrier." And here's a picture of that. Were there vehicles pulled by domesticated animals in the New World? In the Old World, the larger domesticated animals such as cattle, water buffalo, and horse were used to haul plows and wheeled vehicles. In the New World, the simple digging stick was never abandoned, nor were wheeled vehicles used. However, ancient Native Americans were not ignorant of the principle of the wheel. Toy ceramic dogs mounted on 4 wheels have been found in Mexico, near Veracruz. Presumably, in the absence of beasts of burden to pull them, full-size wheeled vehicles would not have been much more efficient than human porters or litter bearers. Chariots were used for war in many ancient Eastern societies. However, the supposed warmongering New World peoples of Book of Mormon times would have had no horses to pull such wheeled vehicles. Here's a picture of a war chariot with bow and arrow. The peoples of the Book of Mormon supposedly had bows and arrows in their wars, but they had no horses, so they wouldn't have been able to use a chariot for war. The idea of a chariot starts to seem like it was Joseph Smith's. Mormon Apologist explanation. The mainstream archaeologists must be wrong, and Mormon BYU apologists right. Here's a couple links to some boring BYU professors' belabored attempts to try to solve these problems. More examples. Other anachronistic, out-of-place things in the Book of Mormon include cattle, swine, sheep, barley and wheat, silk, cement, iron and steel, metal swords, scimitars, weights and measures, compass, window, knowledge of Hebrew and Egyptian languages, and calendars. This will keep the BYU professors busy for a long time. The evidence is clear. The Book of Mormon is a work of fiction. For a great book on the Book of Mormon and the life of Joseph Smith, read Joseph Smith, The Making of a Prophet by Dan Vogel. Awesome book.